Today, we're going to be speaking with Kelly Weill, who's a journalist at the Daily Beast, where she covers extremism, disinformation, and the internet. Also, author of Off the Edge: Flat Earthers, Conspiracy Culture, and Why People Will Believe Anything. Kelly, really great to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
So, I want to get a little bit to the resurgence of flat Earth specifically, because I think it's an interesting kind of window into a lot of the stuff that you cover. But if we zoom out a little bit, when I've spoken to both extremists and those who cover extremists, often they say that the folks most likely to fall into these types of beliefs generally are folks with, on the one hand, certain personality characteristics, but on the other hand, with backgrounds that are often about not having something that they feel a sense of belonging towards. And sometimes this relates to parenting, sometimes this relates to communities or bullying in school or these sort of types of things. What's your sense covering this and researching it about what makes folks more likely to, as you say in the title of the book, believe anything?
hmm I mean, there are a few factors, and one thing that I have to flag is that we're all susceptible to conspiratorial thinking to some degree. It's not some weird thing that tinfoil hat people do. It really emerges when we feel like we don't have enough information, or the information we have isn't comforting for us. It doesn't reaffirm our priors. But you're right to bring up that sort of sense of isolation, because one of the things that people go looking for when they seek out flat earth or another conspiracy theory is a sense of belonging, is a sense of community. And conspiracy theories often work in this weirdly team based way. It becomes sort of an us versus them mentality where you're either on the inside of this small community that says it has all the answers and the world is out to get us, or you're on the other side and by definition evil and scheming. So I think those communities are very alluring for people who both want community and want answers, and it repackages them in a way that I think is it's very appealing for certain people.
The comfort thing is interesting because one of the characteristics, not of flat earth specifically, but of some other conspiracy theories, including that random events were actually planned. What seems to underlie it is that it's really stressful to think or to believe that random bad things happen that you couldn't possibly protect yourself from, and that it's sort of a matter of chance whether you personally are affected by something or not. It seems that some people get comfort from believing it was planned, and at least some people knew exactly when and how this was going to happen.
Yeah, and it's weird to think what's comforting for certain people, because if you told me that, there's a whole bunch of evildoers in a dark room scheming all these events, it's actually the opposite of comforting to me. That's a little distressing. But for some people, that's better than the idea of pure chaos,
Right.
or they often make it very theological. They don't like the idea that there's nobody looking out for them. And, to tie this back to flat earth, one of the best reasonings I've heard for someone getting into flat earth theory is they believe the earth is like the universe is very small. It's this little flat earth contained under a snow globe, basically. And she said that she didn't like the idea that the universe was so big and so random, and that she was this little point in it. And when she compressed all the unknown knowns into this, again, really small um, snow globe, that she realized that she was special and she had a place in the universe. And so I think
Right.
that explains a little bit of it.
You write about how there was actually a flat Earth movement in the 1830s, and I think many people might just say, "Well, we just knew a lot less then." But
Mhm.
actually, 1830 was not the start of when we started to realize that the spherical Earth is actually what it is. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what led that movement and what the beliefs were based on?
Totally. So you're right. I mean, we've known for more than 2,000 years now that Earth is round. And it's because it's actually pretty easy to prove. Old timey mathematicians in Greece and Egypt were doing this for ages. What happened in the 1830s, 1840s was it was a time of upheaval. It was a time of technological and scientific revolution. And that is a moment when people go looking for alternative answers. And as new ideas of science and evolution were forcing religion to take the back seat in a lot of people's minds, people started looking for reasons to discount science. And flat Earth emerged from this really wacky character. He was a failed commune leader. He sold fake medical cures for a while. He had this theory that because Earth looks flat, it must be flat. And not only that, but it's that scientists are actively colluding to hide the reality from you. So for people who wanted to opt out of new fields of science, this was the golden ticket.
Right. And when we think about the resurgence of flat Earth, like over the last 6 to 10 years, it's interesting that we have so many more technological means available to us now and so many different ways to easily prove that the Earth is not flat. And yet it has still resurged, but on a sort of different basis, right?
Absolutely. It's funny, for about 200 years now, we've been watching flat earthers come up with new reasons to discard new scientific evidence. In the During the space race, flat earthers had to contend with, okay, why are there pictures of Earth from outside Earth if we're all underneath this snow globe? Um, and increasingly, I'm seeing people not really try to contend with the evidence at all, but say that any new conflicting evidence is actually proof of a scheme against them. It's fabricated. It's there to deceive them. So one thing is that this theory and many other conspiracy theories are not really about the provability or the believability. They're about people's willingness to believe against all odds. And when you get that kind of motivated reasoning, it becomes really easy to just chuck out evidence that you don't like.
You know, in the past, when I've interviewed experts on conspiracism and conspiratorial thinking, often we kind of start from the point of flat Earth being one of the most benign, non-empirically based sort of conspiratorial beliefs, and that it might exist in a sort of isolated, benign space. But many of these folks who study this say, well, rarely do people just have one of these beliefs. And so there's really more than random overlap between like flat earth beliefs, Illuminati, one world government, anti-Semitic beliefs, that all these different things are linked more than you would expect by random chance. And so while flat earth specifically might sort of be benign, it's often the same types of folks that go to the flat earth conferences that are doing some of the other stuff. Do you agree with that assessment, disagree with it, partially agree?
I absolutely agree. And I think it's getting worse too. I started following Flat Earth around 2017. And even at that time, I thought it was a little bit more siloed. I didn't see so much interchange with other conspiracy theories. Whereas now I see a lot more active networking. What would have been a purely Flat Earth Facebook page 2017 is now sharing a lot of COVID disinfo or thinly veiled QAnon. And, that does make sense in a way, because if you believe in something so literally world encompassing as flat Earth, you're not going to believe that every other established reality holds true.
Right.
Flat Earth lets you just knock down all the facts and build your own. And so it's very easy for people to draw on pre existing conspiracy theories. And you're right to note that a lot are anti Semitic or hateful in nature.
One of the interesting things about flat Earth is there's this kind of common belief, which I think is borne out by the studies, which is you can't just give facts to folks who believe certain things, and sometimes the more facts you give them, the more they actually resist changing their perspective. And the interesting thing in that context about flat Earth is that they have rebuttals to just about every purported rebuttals, I think I should say, to just about every empirical claim that you can present to them with data and with facts and with observation. And so it's sort of like the perfect experiment as to what does get folks to revise their beliefs when it comes to people who were flat earthers but were disabused of those beliefs. What has worked effectively?
What has worked with the ex flat earthers that I've spoken to is not exactly debate, because I think when people debate, they dig into their own beliefs. They
Yeah.
double down, they don't want to be proven wrong. What I've found has helped in the limited cases of deconversions, because I think people need to be willing to deconvert,
Yeah.
is they've had compassionate discussions with round earthers, people who aren't here to belittle them or prove them wrong or have one of these awful YouTube live stream debates, but say, okay, why did you come to this belief? And, what emotionally is motivating you to do this? And um, what can we do that's observable to you? Can we go watch the sunset over the horizon? Will that help? And that kind of compassionate exchange, one that, takes into account the humanity of the person that you're trying to talk to and the emotional needs that drive them to conspiracy theories, often I think is a lot more fruitful than this belittling, or I keep using the term team based, but it's conspiracy theories are very team based, and if you turn it into an us versus them debate, it follows that that's not going to convert somebody.
What are the motives that flat earthers believe explain why the powers that be, so to speak, would want folks believing that the earth is actually spherical when it's flat?
That's a really tough one, and it's one that I ask a lot of flat earthers, and I get a range of answers, and quite a lot of people say, I don't really know.
Mm,
Um, I mean, the upsetting answer is a lot of people will say something pretty anti-Semitic,
right.
or they'll use they'll use,
Even though,
kind of
like, why would the Jews benefit from the earth really being flat, but people thinking it's spherical? Like, I don't even know.
right, right. I mean, it none of these theories, because they're, it goes back and it's building on centuries of conspiratorial frameworks. None of them actually hold up. There's no reason a religious group would want to disguise the Earth's shape. But they'll make those callbacks, or they'll use something a bit more veiled, the Illuminati, the New World Order. They'll say that maybe we that the powers that be want to downplay the role of religion in the world, or they want to keep people confused. Or the best answer I ever got was this guy. So flat earthers generally don't believe in outer space, and this guy is like, well, what I think is going on is they want us to believe in space, so they want us to believe in aliens, so that when Jesus comes down again, we'll think he's an alien and we'll kill him. So
Oof,
the
that's
long
pretty
and
tough to talk someone out of. I mean, that's the crazy thing
yeah.
about it.
Oh, that was really rough, because I mean, he clearly thought about this for much longer than I was ever going to.
Yeah.
Um, but the long and short of it is, people are really willing to believe this theory, and sometimes the specifics or even the motivation comes secondary.
Can you talk a little bit about the social media platform algorithms like on Facebook and YouTube, and specifically like with flat? I think many in my audience generally understand controversy does better algorithmically. So then, in general, platforms will share articles that are negative, divisive, etc., with no regard for whether they are accurate or not. But what are we seeing about these algorithms specifically with flat Earth?
Flat Earth has performed really, really well historically in social media algorithms, especially on YouTube. There was a period from about 2014 to 2019 when Flat Earth videos got this massive artificial boost. And the reason is, I mean, YouTube is a company. They want to make money, and they make money from you staying on the site and watching videos.
Yeah.
And so, because Flat Earth was something that I am guilty of this too, everybody clicks on at 2 in the morning. Those videos perform very well algorithmically, and people will get recommended to them even if they weren't seeking them out. So YouTube did change its algorithm after tons of criticism by 2019, but the fact still stands. For 5 years, this was a really just like open fire hose of flat Earth info into unsuspecting people's feeds.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, can you talk a little bit about in the culture, in the landscape right now of conspiracy theories and sort of extremist beliefs? What are maybe some less known things that are maybe coming up? I mean, I think QAnon, my audience knows about flat Earth, election was stolen, vaccines are killing millions, but nobody, some of the obvious ones I think my audience is aware of. But is there anything kind of like up and coming that you're tracking?
Oh man, the question is always like whether to talk about it if it's up and coming.
Right.
I think, to put it a different way, I mean, there are always fringe theories on the up. What I think is different now is their embrace in mainstream Republican politics.
Mm.
So whereas QAnon was something that was, on its face completely absurd and deranged, now we're seeing this much more wholesale embrace of things like election conspiracy theories by the Republican Party. And, as much as I will criticize things for like social media for their role in promoting conspiracy theories, this I think is uncharted or not recently charted territory,
You
where
mean
we
the
have
degree to which the Republican Party has participated?
exactly
Mm.
their role in promoting it and the role in normalizing it. And I think that is pretty dangerous. And as much as we can rail on the YouTubes and the Facebooks for promoting disinfo, this is an integral part of American politics, and it is just diving all the way in on conspiracy theories.
Do you have an opinion as to for how long will they continue with the evidence is just about to come out? I mean, because it's we're at 15 months now, and Rudy Giuliani and Trump, and I mean, they continue to say we're about to get the stuff from Georgia, we're about to get the stuff from does this have a long life ahead of it? You think?
I think it does, but not because they're going to keep claiming the evidence is coming out. It's like flat earth where the evidence doesn't really matter. It's an
Right,
emotional appeal, right?
right.
So after they see this narrative for so long, it doesn't really matter that they keep getting disproven because people believe it. There's enough of this saturation of a story that people want to believe. And by that point, they'll have already, taken down voting sites in predominantly black neighborhoods. They'll already have passed legislation that makes it difficult to send in absentee ballots. And that I think is like the real tangible risk of this conspiracy theorizing is it enables things that are very real.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost like they're signaling their membership in a team by repeating that rather than we literally are waiting around for the evidence.
Totally. Yeah. If only they were waiting around because I mean they'll be doing that till they die.
For a very long time, yeah.
Yes.
Kelly Weill is a journalist at the Daily Beast. The book is Off the Edge: Flat Earthers, Conspiracy Culture, and Why People Will Believe Anything. Kelly, really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.